We welcome into the program Phil Savage, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, and he also serves as the color commentator for Alabama football radio broadcast. Phil, how are you today?
I'm good, Aaron. It's good to see you the other day in person on Wednesday, but I hope all's going well with you.
Likewise, good to see you. When I see you, I always know football is getting close, so it's always a good thing. Phil, just wanted to, I guess, get your initial kind of grand overview. You were able to take in a practice the other day. When just looking at this team 1 through 85, what are the things that kind of struck and stood out to you?
Well, typically I'll gravitate toward the defensive side of the ball because of my background, having worked with Nick Saban years ago. And I just marvel at the fact that, 1991, he coached his defensive backs the same way 25 years later. And, I think this defense will be the fastest. It'll be the most athletic group, top to bottom, that Alabama's had under Nick Saban. They're significantly lighter in weight than they were in terms of 7 back in 2009. And, I don't see a player on that side of the ball that another team, an opponent team, will try to target. In other words, hey, we can run the ball at this person, or we can target this defensive back. I think they're that deep on that side of the ball. They're probably a little concerned about their backup defensive line, but still, Bama's got more than most any other school in the country. And then, of course, on the offensive side, while everybody has focused on the quarterback, I'm not so sure that it really matters. I really think that we're going to see a couple of quarterbacks in this first game. Just my feeling on it. Nobody said that, but the way they were divvying up the reps, it appeared to me that they're going to try to play probably 2 in that first game. But the biggest question to me, Aaron, is this running back situation and then the adjustment for Ross Piercebaker from left guard to center. And with question marks at center, at quarterback, and at running back, that impacts your pass protection. I think USC is going to try to pressure this Alabama team, dial up some heat, and see if they can create some mistakes from this Alabama offense.
Speaking with Phil Savage, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile. Phil, you've never been a head coach, but you've been on the personnel side of it. What are the challenges in playing 2 quarterbacks, or are there any challenges?
Well, there's challenges to it because, no 2 quarterbacks are the same. And so you almost have to build out at least some subtle differences in terms of your game plan. And it's really difficult to get the number of reps you need to get a single quarterback ready, much less 2. And so I think in this situation, we saw it occur with A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims a number of years ago. You saw Alabama take a couple of games before they ultimately handed over the reins to A.J. 2 years ago, they went into the West Virginia contest thinking that it would be Blake Sims and Jake Coker. That never happened. Bama ended up in somewhat of a shootout with West Virginia. Blake Sims was playing well, and Coker never really got a chance to participate. I don't get the sense that if they play 2 quarterbacks, that it'll be just one guy and then the other one's just waiting the entire game. I think they would have some sort of layout with how they were going to do it. But I think over the SC game, the Western Kentucky game, that gives them 120 minutes of audition time to figure out who they really want to send out there against Ole Miss over in Oxford week 3.
Talking with Phil Savage. He is the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, also serves as the Alabama color commentator for football broadcast. Phil, there's such a fascination right now with Jalen Hurts, and I guess really for any backup quarterback is always the popular saying is they're the most popular player on the team. But what ways can Lane Kiffin, can Nick Saban mitigate the risk of playing a true freshman and getting him into the game, but also maybe protecting him a little bit?
Well, I think first of all they would try to narrow the game plan for when he was in there. They would give him plays that he's very comfortable running. This Alabama offense over the last 2 years, 2 seasons ago, you saw Blake Sims play the position. I've always termed it's almost like a shortstop. He would catch the ball in shotgun, turn and pivot, throw the ball outside to Amari Cooper and let him do the rest. Then you would see then you would see Jake Coker last year, 6'5", 240 pounds, and he is more of a first baseman. And so instead of doing a lot of the lateral stuff, they started going down the field more and building in the play-action pass off of Derrick Henry. I think with Jalen Hurts, because he is a dual threat, I mean, he's got an explosive set of legs, he's got a big arm. So between those two aspects of it, I think you'd see some zone read from him, and I think that they would try to give him, cut the field in half and give him some easier reads to make once he goes in the game. But I feel confident that he's going to play. I think when you're still splitting reps 9 days in front of your first game, that's an indication to me that they're planning on playing more than one quarterback.
Talking with Phil Savage, you had a great tweet yesterday that I thought put a lot of context in the changing recruiting philosophy of Nick Saban, at least on defense, to try to combat these spread, hurry-up offenses, in that the 2009 starters on defense, at least from the front seven, to 2016 were about 20 pounds lighter per man. Does that leave them at all susceptible to being pushed around against the Arkansas and the LSUs of the world?
You know, Aaron, I don't think it does. They still continue to recruit at least one big body, one massive individual per year with this defensive line group. You know, I went back and added it up. It was 281 pounds across the front seven in 2009. And this year, based on the front seven that I think will get the most time, they was 263 pounds. So it was about 18 pounds different over the course of these 7 years. They're lighter, they're leaner, they can run sideline to sideline. But you're right, they have to guard against the idea of having to go and play against an Arkansas team or an LSU team that will line up and run the ball between the tackles. The good news is that, you know, Jonathan Allen's in that 285, 290 range. Dalvin Tomlinson's going to be in that 300-pound range. So they still have the best combination of bulk plus movement skills and movement ability up front. So I don't think it would be a problem there unless there were a rash of injuries. And I think that's probably the biggest concern for Alabama's defensive coaches, is that their frontline talent is right at the top, but they are a little bit concerned about their depth on the defensive line, as compared certainly to last year where they went 9 or 10 deep.
Speaking with Phil Savage, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, you mentioned it earlier in the conversation. Nick Saban has mentioned it twice following each scrimmage that he's a little concerned about the lack of consistency in the run game. Do you think that's more offensive line? And I wanted to get your opinion on these running backs, Bo Scarborough, Damian Harris, B.J. Emmons, and Joshua Jacobs. Is it more of an offensive line issue, or are there issues with the backs just maybe being young and not fully seasoned yet?
I'd say it's probably somewhat of a combination. I mean, you've got a true freshman in Jonah Williams at right tackle, a new starter, albeit an experienced backup in Bradley Bozeman at right guard. He's played primarily center, to my knowledge, prior to this year. And then Pierce Baker's moving from left guard to center. And then Lester Cotton's plugged in at left guard. And, of course, Cam Robinson returns at left tackle. So there's some moving parts up front. I'm sure that the timing is not quite there yet. They've got a new offensive line coach in Brent Fry. Obviously, Mario Cristobal is now coaching the tight end. They're a piece of the puzzle as well. And then you've got 4 running backs that have really never played very much football at this level. Now, Damian Harris got a few reps last year, but by and large, you're talking about all new players. So, again, I think the run game can come together. The bigger concern I would have against USC in specific is the fact that their defensive coordinator, Clancy Pendergast, I think he'll be very aggressive because he believes in the corner they have, Adoree Jackson. I think they'll match Jackson to Calvin Ridley, and if they can say get a X that part of it out, if that's a 1-for-1 trade-off, then they believe that if they pressure a new center, a new quarterback, and a new running back that's involved in that pass pro, they may be able to make some hay in that regard. So that if I were getting ready for this game, that's what I would be getting prepared for.
Wrapping up here with Phil Savage, you know his name, you know his voice. He's the color commentator for Alabama Football Radio Broadcast. And Phil, this question is solely for me because I'm kind of a football dork. I was watching the NFL Network not too long ago, and they had a great special about the mid-'90s Cleveland Browns, and just the collection of front office talent you guys had there was kind of incredible. Do you look back now and think, how in the world did we have such a collection of guys that went on to do great things?
Yeah, it really was a pretty amazing group, Aaron. I think that, we ended up with 6 general managers off that staff and, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 head coaches in college and the pro ranks. And, it was a proverbial think tank for football. It was people that were very passionate about the sport, had a tremendous work ethic. It's probably the only time that I ever saw Nick Saban actually get tired. When I see him at Alabama now, I never see him out of energy. And that was 25 years ago. And I saw him, he got pushed to the wall pretty good, too, by Bill Belichick and everyone there. But it was a lot of great people there. I think all of us took different pieces and parts of that experience and carried it forward, modified it to whatever circumstance we were in. And no one has done that better than Nick Saban, from Michigan State to LSU, and then certainly the ultimate has been this 10-year run at Alabama.
Always enjoyed the conversation, Phil, and look forward to seeing you in Dallas next week.
All right, Aaron, good deal, man. Good luck with the show, and we'll catch up next week.